Chapter 284 7-Man Fusion Skill. He had an indescribable feeling towards Wang Qiu. He was sure that it wasn't love. He had given all his love to Wang Donga, but he couldn't break away from Wang Qiu. It was an affection that seemed to bind their blood together. It was something that Huo Yue couldn't understand. The second elimination round started. As the first elimination round took too long, there wasn't a break between it and the second elimination round. After the duels ended yesterday, the lot drawing for the second round commenced immediately. The Tang Sect would be competing tomorrow. Today, Shrek Academy was going to compete. As the legendary team in the tournament, many people were waiting for them to compete. In the previous tournament, they had managed to create a miracle even though the circumstances were unfavorable for them. Could they do the same in this tournament? No one knew the answer. The inclusion of Sects made the tournament more worth watching, but also made it much more unpredictable. After the first round, 56 of the remaining 84 teams came from Sects. That was 2/3 of the teams left in the tournament. This showed how powerful Sects were. However, there were some traditional academy teams which were true powerhouses, such as the Douluo National Academy and the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. The resting area was much more spacious now. The seats had also been rearranged. The Tang Sect, which had obtained full 12 points in the first elimination round, was guided to the pergola. This was the VIP resting area. Only the strongest teams could rest here. The second elimination round is about to commence. Everyone, please stay silent. The reigning champions and winners of all of the previous editions of the tournament, Shrek Academy, will be competing today. The Sun Moon Empire's citizens didn't have a good impression of Shrek Academy. It was because of Shrek Academy that the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy always came in second in the tournament. When they heard the words Shrek Academy, many of the spectators started booing. Huo Yue could see many things much more clearly as he entered the VIP resting area. Although the Tang Sect had managed to gain access into this area due to their impressive performance in the previous round, they could only sit at the sides. Shrek's Academy team was in the center of the VIP resting area. They were next to the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, the Holy Ghost Sect, and other strong teams. Huo Yue also noticed another team. They were on the other side of the VIP resting area. He had noticed this team on the second day of the tournament. They had seemed to be very average, but their martial souls couldn't be concealed. They were from the Body Sect. However, they were doing their best to conceal their abilities. Apart from these few teams he had taken note of, Huo Yue's expression suddenly changed as he unleashed his spiritual detection. Almost every team in this VIP resting area was extraordinary. From what he sensed, there were very few competing members that had less than 5 rings. Most of them were at least Soul Kings. Huo Yue was only a Soul King himself. Although his spiritual detection was great, his judgment of the aura of those beyond his cultivation wasn't fully accurate. However, it was still good enough for him to tell how strong what weaker team was. Wang Qiu was sitting on a chair at the very front of Shrek Academy's team. Huo Yue discovered that Dai Huobin, Ning Tian, Zhu Lu, Wu Feng and the others behind her appeared very resolute. After not seeing them for some time, they seemed to have matured greatly. At the very least they were less impatient. It seemed like the pressure from the tournament wasn't entirely a bad thing. Huo Yue was impressed. Second elimination round. The first fight will be between Shrek Academy and the Heavenly Armor Sect. Both parties, please enter your waiting areas. The voice coming from the main stage announced the beginning of the second elimination round. Heavenly Armor Sect. Huo Yue felt that this name was very familiar. He immediately recalled how he had met the disciplined Heavenly Armor Sect before they came to Radiant City. They were all riding hornscale horses from the Douluo Empire. The Heavenly Armor Sect had even left a deep impression on him. He hadn't expected them to have to face Shrek Academy in the second round. Both parties entered their respective waiting areas. As expected, the 7 from Shrek Academy were Wang Qiu, Dai Huobin, Zhu Lu, Ning Tian, Qi Wanyu, Wu Feng, and Cao Jingquan, Zhou Siken, Lan Susu, and Lan Luoluo were seated beneath the stage as substitutes. They weren't able to compete today. The Heavenly Armor Sect wasn't in the VIP resting area. They were still in the resting area outside. Huo Yue unleashed his spiritual detection and immediately sensed Han Zhan choosing the competing members for the Heavenly Armor Sect. He could sense the tense nerves of the Heavenly Armor Sect's competing members. Shrek Academy was extremely reputable. They had built that reputation with their ability for thousands of years. The Heavenly Armor Sect was simply too unlucky to have drawn Shrek Academy. After making it through the first round, they had met Shrek Academy in only the second round. Han Zhan, who was helpless, since they had met Shrek Academy, what could they do? They could only go all out against them. This was the idea that he planted in his disciples' heads after the lot was drawn. It was a rare opportunity for them to fight Shrek Academy. At least they could have a taste of the abilities and fighting strategies of the top academy on the continent. The 7 competing members from both sides entered the waiting area. The referee said loudly, individual elimination round. First members from both teams, please enter the stage. A muscular youth from the Heavenly Armor Sect jumped onto the stage as the spectators watched. Dai Huobin was the first from Shrek Academy to compete. What? Huo Yue gently exclaimed. As he watched Wang Qiu's back, the look in his eyes changed. She's not the first to compete. This is unlike her. Wang Donga also muttered under her breath. Huo Yue clapped his hand against hers and said, they're really smart. It seems like she really values this tournament. To conserve her abilities and fight in a balanced manner, she's managed to remain patient. It won't be easy for us either, if we meet them. Wang Donga said, it's better not to meet them. It's not good for us to go against one another. Huo Yue smiled and replied, let's see how our luck is. If we don't meet them in the next round, we should be able to last until the finals. Dai Huobin was much fitter than before. He entered the stage confidently. Both parties greeted each other in front of the referee. Shrek Academy, Dai Huobin, Heavenly Armor Sect, Hanu. The referee repeated the rules of the tournament once more and emphasized that neither of them should intentionally kill their opponent. Otherwise, they would be punished. After that, he let the 2 of them retreat and prepare for the fight. While Dai Huobin appeared very calm, he was actually very anxious. He was finally here at the tournament. Even though he was a substitute, he was still finally here. After years of tireless cultivation, he finally had a chance to display his prowess. Dad, elder brother, wait and see. I'll definitely show how good I am. He bumped his fists together in front of his chest. A strong competitive intent was exuded from his body. He cracked his knuckles and stared at his opponent. Right now, he was like a famished and ferocious tiger. Match, start. The referee swiped his right hand down. Dai Huobin shot out like a ferocious tiger. However, he didn't unleash his strengthening skills like he always did. He only unleashed his martial soul. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 1 black soul ring. The best combination. White hair grew from his body, and he expanded in size as he unleashed his white tiger. If someone else had such a cultivation, everyone would be terrified. However, it was apt that Dai Huobin possessed such a martial soul. Since he was representing Shrek Academy, the youth from the Heavenly Armor Sect didn't rush forward. Hanu looked very calm, and also unleashed his own martial soul. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 1 black soul ring also appeared. Once again the best combination for a soul king. A pitch black, hexagonal piece of metal flew out from his body before it condensed to form a hexagonal shield. The shield was dense and heavy, and formed from proportionate pieces of scales. After unleashing his martial soul, Hanu took big strides towards Dai Huobin as his aura continued to soar. With a roar, Dai Huobin's speed increased rapidly. His thick and strong legs unleashed great force. The speed at which he was moving was so fast that an illusory projection seemed to drag along behind him. He slammed his tiger palm towards Hanu. Hanu did the opposite. As he was bursting forward, he suddenly stomped his left leg and came to an abrupt stop. As he stopped, he unleashed his Heavenly Armor Shield. The Heavenly Armor Sect was a family sect. All of its disciples were descendants and relatives, and they possessed almost the same martial soul. The Heavenly Armor Shield. Bang! It was only the first strike, but Dai Huobin demonstrated how powerful he was. Their cultivations were at the same level, and his opponent had used a shield to defend against him, but his palm strike forced Hanu back more than 3 meters. Hanu's feet even made sparks as he slid across the metal surface. Dai Huobin's sharp tiger claws had left 5 deep marks on the shield. This was a direct collision, a probing attack in defense. Neither party used soul skills. In terms of strength, the winner was clear. Dai Huobin didn't stop moving. At the same time as he struck his opponent, he opened his mouth wide, and a streak of white light shot out of it. It was his second soul skill, White Tiger's Fierce Light Wave. A loud boom resonated, and Hanu retreated once again. His first and second soul rings lit up, and the surface of the heavenly armor shield shone like a mirror. As the white tiger's fierce light wave shone on it and the scales of the armor undulated in a weird fashion, many small streaks of white light were reflected away, immediately diverting a large portion of the wave's impact. At the same time, the heavenly armor shield shifted, and 16 hexagonal scales flew out of it towards Dalu. The sides of every scale were like sharp blades. Defense and counterattack. Handu was very steady in front of Dalu. In terms of abilities and psychological mindset, he was excellently trained. Dalu acted like he didn't see the armor scales. He burst forward again, and his first soul ring lit up. A layer of white surfaced on his body, just as the shield scales were about to cut into him. A white light spread out and deflected all of them away. Although they turned and flew back towards him, Dalu had already reached Handu in this short span of time. Dalu roared again, and everything in front of Handu turned black. Following this, his tiger palm struck the heavenly armor shield forcefully again. Hanu's heavenly armor shield was adept at countering long-range energy attacks, just like how it dealt with the white tiger's fierce light wave earlier. However, it was helpless against such physical attacks. However, he was still a defense-type soulmaster. Noticing that something was amiss, he immediately squatted down, and the sharp base of the shield stabbed into the metal floor. He leaned the entire shield back and used it to resist Dahuabin's attack at an angle. At the same time, his third soul ring lit up. The 16 pieces of shield scales in the air turned fiery red, as if they had been heated in a forge, and flew towards Dahuabin with a piercing screech. It was Hanu's third soul skill, meteoric fire armor. He had to attack his enemy at a vital spot. Handu was very confident in his 1000-year soul skill, the meteoric fire armor. In his opinion, Dahuabin would find it difficult to deal with his double-pronged attack even though he was very strong as a close combat soulmaster. However, he didn't expect Dahuabin to ignore the meteoric fire armor and continue to reach for the heavenly armor shield with his right palm. A terrifying and huge force was exerted on the shield. It was different from the forceful push earlier. This time, it was an intense jerk that came from Dahuabin's tiger palm. Handu was so shaken that he almost spat blood. He could feel that his shield was about to be crushed. He even heard painful sounds coming from the armor scales that formed the shield. However, Handu was also very excited now. That was because his meteoric fire armor had already reached Dahuabin. It was impossible for him to resist or dodge at this moment. The 16 scales had blocked off his escape route. Did he really not realize it? Dahuabin answered his doubt instantly. His white hair released an extremely intense golden light. His body expanded, and his tiger palm seemed to stick to the heavenly armor shield. As he lifted his palm up, he used his right elbow to hit the shield with incredible force. Dang, 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 boom. Two different sounds could be heard at the same time. When the scales struck Dahuabin's body, they were bounced away again. He didn't even seem to feel their impacts at all, and resisted the blows easily. The tremendous boom that sounded was caused by his right elbow as it struck the shield. Handu didn't expect Dahuabin to use such a method to resist his attack. He was completely unprepared for this strike. The heavenly armor shield was blown apart. Dahuabin continued to burst forward in a dominant fashion, and slammed into Hanu's chest with his shoulder. As his shield was crushed, Hanu's defense was crippled, and he was bleeding profusely. His arms were in great pain. Everything happened too quickly, and he couldn't use a stronger soul skill anymore. He also needed time to retract his scales. Right now, he was like a turtle that had lost the protection of its shell. He was in front of Dahuabin in his weakest state. The only thing he could do was raise his soul power and push his palms out towards Dahuabin. Boom! From the spectator's view, Handu was like a fired cannon shell as he was knocked back. He flew more than 10 meters and struck the protective barrier surrounding the stage before he was bounced back to the floor. He couldn't get up after that. Dahuabin stopped and calmly turned around. He walked back towards the center of the stage. From the start until the end, this was a very short fight. Dahuabin had demonstrated his great fighting strength. Handu had the same number of soul rings as he did. As a defense type soul king above rank 50, he didn't even have the chance to unleash his fourth and fifth soul skill before he lost. This was the gap in their abilities. Dahuabin gave off a very barbaric and ruthless air. Many people were stunned by his performance. Wang Donga was in shock as she noted. He has been greatly affected by Kua. Huo Yuao's lips moved slightly. His actual combat ability has greatly increased. Although his fighting style is very simple and violent, he's much calmer than before. He also aptly used his white tiger's Vajra transformation. Wang Donga nodded agreement and said, yes. However, this is also a good thing. After all, they are representing Shrek. Kua has brought about great change to them. Shrek Academy didn't slip up against the heavenly armor sect in the second elimination round. They used their dominant abilities and ruthless fighting style to win. Dahuabin overwhelmed his opponents yet again. There were fewer and fewer boos from the spectators. What was the use of boos in front of them, since they were so strong? However, Dahuabin conceded defeat before he fought the third competing member from the heavenly armor sect and left the stage. Oh, what kind of momentum is this? Shu Sanchi muttered to himself, curious about what was going on. Wu Feng was already on the stage, and walking towards the center of it. Dahuabin can obviously still fight. Why did he concede defeat? Is it because he's not confident? Impossible. With his character, he won't know when to stop. Xiao was also confused. Huo Yuao squinted. This must be a strategy Kua arranged. She's training them so that they can get used to the tempo of the tournament. After all, it's their first time. Huo Yuao was right. This was her strategy, helping them gain experience so that they could fight better. It was only through continuous fighting that they could increase their abilities and demonstrate what they had learned over this period of time. This also made them more confident. Otherwise, Wang Kua would have been able to defeat the entire heavenly armor sect on her own. Wu Feng's opponent was also using the heavenly armor shield. Match, start. As the referee shouted, Wu Feng's eyes lit up. Burning dragon scales started to surface throughout her entire body. As she leapt out, the air around her started to form ripples from the heated air around her. This member from the heavenly armor sect had learned from the lessons of the two previous competitors, and immediately unleashed his offensive skills. He unleashed two soul skills at the same time. His meteoric fire armor was sent flying towards Wu Feng. The hot-tempered Wu Feng didn't choose to directly resist the armor, her petite figure blurring as she dodged the attack. She didn't move as swiftly as Tang Clan's ghost shadow perplexing track, but she was quick. Dragon roars could be heard rising from her body. Every time her body twisted, supernatural changes started to occur. From the looks of it, her body only seemed to distort slightly before she dodged the meteoric fire armor scales flying at her. However, her body moved countless times in that instant. Huo Yuao turned his attention to Wang Kua, who was in the waiting area. He had seen such a similar dodging movement from her. Wu Feng must have been taught by Wang Kua, as they both had dragon-type martial souls. As a possessor of ultimate strength, there were many things that Wang Kua could teach Wu Feng. It seemed like Wu Feng had improved as much as Dahuabin. Wu Feng let out a deep dragon's roar. After dodging the attack, her speed soared again as she burst towards her opponent. The youth from the heavenly armor sect was already prepared. Without any hesitation, he unleashed his strongest fourth soul skill. Yes, he was a soul ancestor just like the second competing member from the sect. The outward bulge on the heavenly armor shield turned into an inward bulge. Several streaks of red light started to reflect from the mirrored surfaces of the armor. They were reflected towards a single point, converting into a beam of fire that shot towards Wu Feng. Heavenly armor needle, a single target offensive soul skill. It was as strong as a 10,000-year soul skill. Its penetrating abilities perfectly demonstrated the strength of the heavenly armor shield. The heavenly armor needle was unleashed at the correct moment. It was at the instant when Wu Feng dodged the meteoric fire armor scales, so it was impossible for her to dodge anymore. She hadn't expected the meteoric fire armor scales to be a trap. In fact, Dahuabin had defeated the meteoric fire armor twice already. No one in the heavenly armor sect was confident in his soul skill anymore. Without a special method, there was no chance of victory against a 5-ring soulmaster, especially since he was only a 4-ring soulmaster. The heavenly armor needle was his only chance. However, Wu Feng had been through tough training and was tortured by Wang Kua mercilessly almost every day. It wasn't that easy to defeat her. Even though she couldn't compare to Huo Yuao, her advantage over other soulmasters was still very evident. As Wu Feng opened her mouth, she spewed flames to counter the heavenly armor needle. Her third soul ring lit up as she slowed the needle down, and she punched out at it. The space around Wu Feng distorted furiously and turned dark red. It felt as if she had collapsed after she unleashed her fist. Her entire fist also turned scarlet red. Boom. A scarlet red ball of light blew apart. Undulations of terrifying fiery soul power spread for more than 10 meters before they dissipated. Intense flames spread everywhere, and the youth from the heavenly armor sect was blown more than 10 meters back. His heavenly armor shield cracked. While the heavenly armor needle was strong, he only had 4 rings. Against Wu Feng's 5 rings, it wasn't at all easy for him to achieve victory. Wu Feng's third soul Wu Feng's third soul skill, Explosive Dragon Myth, crushed the heavenly armor shield with its immense destructive force, and also forced her opponent into helpless retreat. Shrek Academy won the third round. Her next opponent was another four-ringed soul ancestor. His martial soul was also the heavenly armor shield. Wu Feng didn't slip up. Just like Dalu, Wu Feng left the stage after she won 2 consecutive rounds, ending her participation in today's elimination round. By conceding defeat, it meant that Shrek Academy couldn't progress directly into the next round through the individual elimination round. They had to go through the team round. 2. The third from Shrek Academy to compete was Yu. He also announced his defeat after winning 2 consecutive rounds. Shrek Academy lost 3 rounds at this stage after sending 3 competing members up, whereas 6 from the heavenly armor sect had been eliminated. They were only left with 1 member. We admit defeat for the individual elimination round. The youth sitting in front of the entire heavenly armor sex team in the waiting area exclaimed. He was the team leader of their squad, Han Jian. There wasn't much meaning in continuing the individual elimination round. Rather than lose again, it was better for them to risk everything during the team round. The few competing members of the heavenly armor sect were all injured from the previous few fights, but they would still be able to compete in the team round. The individual elimination round is over. Shrek Academy is left with 4 members. They have 4 points, while the heavenly armor sect has 0 points. After a 2-minute break, the team round will be conducted. Both parties, please prepare. Even though most of the previous teams had only emerged victorious in the team round, many people were still disappointed with Shrek Academy. After all, there were a few teams that managed to qualify after dominating their individual elimination rounds. Right now, the rest of the 6 members of Shrek Academy's team were in front of Wang Qiu. 12 eyes were now focused on her. Wang Qiu nodded and said, "We'll fight in the team round like we practiced. Triangular formation. Do all of you understand?" Yes. The rest of them acknowledged their order. After 2 minutes, the team members from both sides lined up along the center of the competition stage. The referee said, "This will be the same as the individual elimination round. Both teams will retreat to the sides and wait for my order. Anyone who loses his fighting strength will be considered eliminated, and he can't continue to attack either. We'll try our best to minimize injuries and deaths. Understood?" Yes, yes. Yes, yes. The team leaders from both sides acknowledged the referee's words. Right now, Han Jian seemed to be in a daze. It was because Wang Qiu was too pretty. Although Wang Qiu was wearing a white veil right now, her powdery blue hair, perfect body ratio and bright eyes could still be seen. Han Jian felt his heart beating faster even though he had only glanced at her. He hurriedly lowered his head and didn't dare to continue looking at her. Wang Qiu didn't have any expression in her eyes. She took her team members and withdrew to one side of the stage, standing in the forefront, slightly behind, and to her left and right were Wu Feng and Dai Huobin. Douluo was behind Dai Huobin, while Yu was behind Wu Feng. Cao Jingxuan and Ning Tian were behind Wang Qiu. It was an accurate triangular formation formed by the 7 of them. The heavenly armor sect took on a different formation. They formed an arc, which was very rare in a team fight. Even though an arc-shaped formation could be regarded as a half encirclement, its single line of defense made it very vulnerable to exploitation. Once the competing members were separated, they would lose. Since they had formed up in this manner, it showed that they had some special fighting method. In the VIP resting area, Yu was pensive as he said, "The heavenly armor sect team looks confident. Along with their weird formation and similar martial souls, they must possess some kind of special ability." Zhang Nanan was a little worried as she said, "They won't lose, right? After all, they are representing the academy." Shrek Academy's glory was very important to all of them. Yu shook his head and said, "All plans are futile against an absolute power. At a certain level of cultivation, using special methods might not be enough to change the situation of a fight. Let's see." Since the heavenly armor sect is so confident, I'm sure they must have some way of competing. His confidence in Shrek Academy arose from Wang Qiu's presence. On the tournament stage, the 7 heavenly armor sect team members were lined up neatly. Although some of them looked pale, as they had been injured, they didn't appear weak. Their gazes were filled with an unyielding desire for victory. Match, start. The referee swiped his right hand down and retreated quickly at the same time. On Shrek Academy's side, 7 people moved at the same time. They burst towards their opponents together. Not only were they neatly arranged, but they were also extremely quick. Wang Qiu lifted her right hand. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 2 black soul rings rose from her feet. Although she was wearing a veil, her moving figure and long, swaying hair still left a deep impression. Xiao Hingchen was in a daze as he looked at the stage. He muttered to himself, "Why do I find this team leader from Shrek so familiar? Have I seen her before? It'd be great if she could take off her veil." Meng Hingchen snorted. "You always find pretty girls familiar." He coughed quickly. "Give me some face in front of the rest." Xiao Hingchen snapped at his sister. On the tournament stage, once Shrek Academy's team burst off, the heavenly armor sect team also acted immediately. However, they didn't burst forward, but only unleashed their heavenly armor shields at the same time. 7 shields appeared at the same time. Following this, the 7 of them shouted at the same time. Then they threw the shields in their hands out. The 7 shields flew through the air, and a series of metallic clanging sounds rang out. Their 7 shields were broken down and converted into hexagonal scales. Was this an attack of scales converted from shields? Most people had the same thought. However, the expressions of everyone from the Tang sect changed at this moment. Yu blurted out almost instantly. A 7-man fusion skill. As he was speaking, the scales started to gather at the center of the stage. Suddenly, a huge heavenly armor shield was formed and drifting in midair. The entire shield exuded a sinister aura. Following this, the hexagonal scale started to turn red, so brightly polished it resembled the surface of a mirror. The 4th soul rings of the heavenly armor sect's disciples lit up. Every one of them released intense soul power undulations. A 7-man fusion skill and martial soul fusion skills were completely different. More accurately speaking, a 7-man fusion skill was formed by overlaps. They were usually overlaps of identical martial souls, gathering the strength of all these martial souls to unleash an attack. They required the martial souls and soul skills to be the same, so that they could be unleashed together once a sufficient level of coordination was achieved. Compared to the qualitative changes of martial soul fusion skills, 7-man fusion skills were slightly weaker. However, it was a killer move for sects that had certain types of martial souls. As the 7 shields gathered to form a huge shield, unleashing the same type of skill, it was equivalent to a combination of 7 identical soul skills tied together to form one soul skill. Its strength was incredible. Something as magical as this hadn't appeared in the tournament for ages, as sects had not been allowed to compete in earlier editions of the tournament. This was also the reason why the Sun Moon Empire proposed that sects be recognized again. Only sects possessed many soul masters with the same martial soul. This was very difficult to find in an academy, and most academies wouldn't bother trying to develop such a fusion skill either. Many years had passed, but such a fusion skill had finally appeared in the tournament again after sects were once again allowed to compete. The entire Shrek team, even Wang Qiu, felt a sense of crisis once the heavenly armor shield was fully formed. It was as if a formidable, savage beast had appeared in front of them and was baring its teeth at them. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.